I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. Cancer is a global disease, and BeOne Medicines believes it should develop its therapies for global markets. To do so, it's taking innovative approaches to clinical trials, pricing, and manufacturing to enable it to pursue patients not only in high income countries, but low and middle income countries as well. We spoke to Matt Shaulis, General Manager of North America for BeOne Medicines, about the significant global disparities in cancer care. The mission of BeOne Medicines to improve access and affordability to therapies, and the opportunities and challenges of taking a global approach to marketing innovative medicines. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure, Danny. Really appreciate this opportunity. It's great to talk with you again.
We're going to discuss cancer, BeOne Medicines, and how the company is working to improve access and affordability to advanced therapies worldwide. Cancer is a global health issue, although there are significant discrepancies in outcomes depending on where patients are located and the care they can access. How big a discrepancy is there today?
Yeah, this is a substantial issue, Danny, and in fact, there can be some really meaningful discrepancies. As you know, cancer is one of the most urgent global health challenges that we face. It's been that way historically, certainly now in our time, and it's currently the second leading cause of death worldwide. About 10 million lives lost in 2022. Uh, with the world population, that's about 1 in 6. And when it comes to discrepancies in high income countries, survival rates for many treatable cancers can exceed 80%. But it's quite different elsewhere. In low and middle income countries, those same rates can fall below 30%. And access, infrastructure from a payer and provider standpoint and affordability play major roles in that. And our view is that geography shouldn't determine your outcomes. Patients face major hurdles like late diagnoses, limited availability of treatments. They have under-resourced health systems with real disparities geographically. And this is often despite the fact that effective therapies exist, but patients can't access or ultimately afford them. So what we're trying to do is build an organization that's very different in order to take on some of these challenges. We believe that our model as sort of a company can take this on. B1 has medicines that are approved in over 70 markets. We have clinical trials in over 45 different countries, and we're currently reaching over 1.5 million patients globally. We've got a deep oncology pipeline that's focused on some of the world's most deadly and difficult to treat cancers, particularly when you look at epi. We're in some of the largest populations with malignancies, including heme, breast, gastric and lung cancers. And we have this model around, going fast to proof of concept. And this strategy consistently surpasses industry benchmarks. For example, our CDK4 inhibitor trials, achieved an average of, just 6 weeks per dose level and enrolled over 180 patients within 14 months. This is the kind of speed that we operate at across a number of our early programs. And what getting fast to POC lets us do is have more data on hand to make better decisions earlier in the process, so that we can then pick winners and try to advance our medicines through clinical development, likewise in a fast way. So this capability in discovery and research is a team of over 1,100 scientists, and from a clinical development standpoint, about 3,700 clinical colleagues. And when we talk about, delivering faster, that lets us ultimately, we believe, due to our cost structure when combined with speed, create a model that ultimately will, we believe, get to greater affordability and reach more patients.
BeOne Medicines may not be a familiar name to listeners. This is a new identity, the result of a rebranding of Beijing, the global oncology company that has operations worldwide. The name change was announced back in November 2024. Why the change?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I thought about many of these same issues myself, when I was, contemplating, joining the organization back in the 3rd quarter of last year. And I can put a little bit of context here that I think will make it, really straightforward. I think in essence, we're becoming a very global company that, is really oriented around, uniting a large number of stakeholders to rally around oncology patients. We're nearing our 15th anniversary, and this name change is a really exciting next step in our global growth journey. It's really more than just a name. It reflects those global efforts to eliminate cancer. That new name and our logo illustrate our focus on coming together. This is the B1 element against cancer, with patients, with scientists, with oncologists, and other stakeholders. And while the name change we think is really exciting, our values are going to remain the same. We'll continue to be guided by a patient's first mentality, bold ingenuity, driving excellence, and having a collaborative spirit, both internally and externally. Those are the principles that have gotten us, here thus far. And we think that that really is one of the reasons why we now have a truly global footprint. We have a substantial research and discovery capability, with much of that foundation being in China. But our clinical development operation truly operates globally in the U.S., in Europe, also in Asia. We manufacture on a global basis. And then we've got a really strong medical affairs and commercial capabilities that are also now truly global. And we're very excited about the presence in the US. We recently opened an office in San Carlos, which is south of San Francisco, and are really, really excited about our campus in Hopewell, New Jersey. It's over 40 acres. It has 400,000 square feet of biologics manufacturing capability, and also has some really important leadership and administrative offices, much like that San Carlos office does. And on all of this is in addition to our longstanding office location in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So these are just a couple examples of the way that we're growing so rapidly in the U.S. All of this is consistent from a global standpoint with our redomiciliation to Switzerland. So, leading life sciences hub of innovation and reinforces our identity as a truly global company. So, hope a couple different facets of that, really paint the picture there.
The company does reach into very different types of markets with very different types of dynamics. This is a publicly traded for-profit company. How does it balance its interest in serving global patient needs and the desire of shareholders to maximize returns? Is there a tension between the two?
Yeah, certainly. Great question, Danny. And we absolutely have got to do both. We really believe that our business model is bold in both purpose and in performance. Our internal R&D, clinical, and manufacturing infrastructure allows us to operate with greater speed and also lower cost. And we think that that lets us bring therapies to market more efficiently. Because of that efficiency, we can broaden access to patients globally while still generating long-term value for our shareholders. And, access and impact we think can scale with performance. We've reached more than 1.5 million patients globally, including through some of our programs that reach underserved patient populations. We think that's proof that we're doing the right thing, while at the same time delivering really strong and sustainable results. And we think that this commitment to broad access and affordability in both developed and developing markets really is a great example of us, fulfilling both of those objectives. We launch in both large and small markets to really enter a diversity of markets that help accelerate our uptake, and we can only do that with great access. So having a really collaborative and flexible approach to pricing is a key part of supporting that goal. And that kind of global footprint, we think ultimately will build trust, open new markets, and again, the performance will come along with it.
What are the opportunities in having a global reach, particularly in going into low and middle income countries?
Yeah, yeah. So glad that you asked that question. Global reach, we think is ultimately all about making a big patient impact. We think that we can close some of the survival gaps that exist across markets, while building access. That's why we really work directly with patients, providers, governments to expand early diagnosis, improve treatment availability, and also strengthen trust in some of the local health systems when you ultimately have meaningful options available to patients. Um, we only do this through what we consider to be a multi-pronged approach. This strategy can include education, capacity building, collaboration with local partners, and advocacy groups. And we think that global markets are increasingly going to require global strategies that are scalable, sustainable. While they operate on a global basis, they're also, driven by local communities. And one great example of this is our partnership with the Max Foundation. It was launched in 2023. This partnership, and it's a 3-year collaboration to bring our BTK inhibitor Brukinza to the adult CLL patients in some low and middle income countries. We've currently reached over 200 patients across Armenia, Nepal, and Ethiopia, and we're so pleased that they've received the clinical benefit of that treatment. But support's also needed in the U.S. And our patient assistance program through myb1support.com enables patients and providers to interact with a team of oncology nurses to meet a whole range of needs that could include addressing product cost to basic day-to-day challenges of our patients. So we think that this is a good example of sort of the full range of markets and how we need to continue to be poised to support patients regardless of what market they're in.
Does that present any unique challenges?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think across the industry, we see a number of biopharma companies, grapple with some of these challenges. They're multifactorial. Of course, when you go across that full range of different market archetypes, you can see that healthcare infrastructure varies pretty widely. Low and middle income countries' healthcare systems often lack diagnostic capacity, often trained oncology staff, or access to care. And even when innovative treatments are available, patients can face delays through the distribution or supply chain networks or fragmented care. So we try to work closely with partners on the ground in the local markets to try to help strengthen some of those systems. Of course, across the range of markets, the regulatory pathways and reimbursement frameworks can also be really unpredictable. Some markets lack streamlined approval processes or well-established mechanisms for oncology, regulatory decisions, and that can be another source of delays to access. And in the worst case scenario, even greatly limit access. So we invest in local engagement, capacity building, education, because we really believe that enabling access does require more than just approval. It takes trust and time and collaboration. So ultimately, we believe that there's no one size fits all model. We're committed to meeting patients where they are, and that can mean, and often does mean, working with advocacy groups, healthcare providers, and policymakers to address not just affordability but also awareness, education, and some of those barriers that are a big part of the challenges.
The pharmaceutical industry doesn't tend to be one where companies seek to often compete on price. Instead, they look to make a case for the value and superiority to justify pricing. B1's been using parity pricing and is willing to price its drugs in line with existing therapies in the class rather than charging a premium for products that demonstrate superiority. Can you talk a little about the rationale behind this pricing strategy?
Sure. Well, we'll look at the foundation. We really believe in superiority of our products from a clinical standpoint, that they are best in class. And absolutely, we believe in pricing at parity or even pricing lower, depending upon the product situation. And we believe that innovation has the greatest impact when it's accessible. We design for affordability from day one because of some of those unique elements of our business model, often choosing parity or below market benchmark pricing. An example is when Brukinsa launched in the U.S. in 2019. We entered the market at a list price about 10% below the leading competitor. We try to take a collaborative and flexible approach to pricing and reimbursement. And this is designed to expand the reach, accelerate uptake, and remove some of those barriers to care. Ultimately, responsible pricing is part of our broader commitment to equity. We think that too often innovative medicines are only accessible to the wealthiest one-sixth of the world. That's regions that we know well, like the US, Europe, and Japan. But our model enables us to reach the other, four-sixths of the world's population, where access has lagged or been significantly limited. That's why we seek registration across developed and developing regions. And we think that's also good business. Expanding access earlier and more broadly helps us build lasting trust with the healthcare systems and providers and regulators and payers, and to grow sustainably over time. So we align our model to deliver this long-term value to patients, providers, that whole gamut of shareholders that I mentioned.
One of the other interesting things about B1 is that, unlike a lot of companies in the industry that have a long-term trend of outsourcing various aspects of the discovery, development, and manufacturing processes, I it's really focused on doing a lot of things itself. It boasts its own clinical trial operations, which are almost exclusively internal. Why is that, and what benefits does this provide in terms of speed and cost, particularly at a time when companies really value being able to expand and contract almost on demand?
It's a great question, Danny, and I guess on the face of it, it probably seems a little counterintuitive, relative to some of the conventional wisdom within the industry about clinical development activity. But we've looked at this very, very carefully. We think it's a key part of how our business model is different. And we've built a high impact global clinical development engine of nearly 3,700 colleagues. And this is because we know that this is where a lot of the economics really play out, right here in clinical trials. Between 75 and 90% of the cost of developing medicines is tied up in clinical trials, and it continues to grow dramatically, particularly as there continue to be more and more competition around known mechanisms of action and scientific targets. And we've built our own model. It focuses on control, speed, and value. We run nearly 100% of our clinical trials in-house versus through CROs. And ultimately, by closely managing this, well, we reduce the cost, but also the time of drug development by around 30%. This is a key enabler for our faster proof of concept approach, which allows us to deliver early stage innovation more efficiently. We get critical insights and signals faster and at lower cost. And with that comes speed of decision making. And of course, doing things faster imparts a benefit when it comes to overall cost. So we also modernized our clinical trial infrastructure to streamline those operations from end to end. Again, that modernization confers benefits on both control and speed. And we think that this approach gives us global reach and diversity, including a stronger North American footprint. We've enrolled more than 24,000 patients in over 150 trials across 45 countries and regions, including a growing number of US sites, which will continue to be an important point of emphasis for our pipeline and our product.
The same is true on the manufacturing side, which you touched on earlier. But in terms of manufacturing, how big a capacity does the company have today, and how is that growing, and what benefits does that approach provide on the manufacturing side?
We're really excited about the investments that we've been making in manufacturing. It really is a global footprint, and I'm particularly excited about what we're doing right here in the United States. We've built one of the most advanced global manufacturing networks in oncology. Again, a similar theme here, designed for speed, scale, and access. We have over 1,500 colleagues that power our operations. We're invested in end-to-end manufacturing capabilities that produce medicines faster and at lower cost. That spans 90 plus acres and three major sites globally. Our network supports small molecules and biologics from preclinical all the way through to commercialization. Our new Hopewell, New Jersey R&D facility is one of our flagship investments in our growing US footprint. This was opened in 2024. It was an investment of about $800 million, dollars, and the site has 400,000 square feet of cutting edge biologics manufacturing and R&D space. And this is with capacity to expand by another 700,000 square feet as we see, the pipeline and the portfolio play out. This creates high-tech jobs in New Jersey. It plays a critical role in our broader strategy to scale innovation and production and access across North America. With this facility in Hopewell, we operate over 74,000 liters of total biologics capacity on a worldwide basis. And of course, Hopewell's a part of that with 8,000 liters at our 42-acre facility, as I mentioned, right there in Hopewell. So owning our own footprint again might be a little bit different than some of the conventional wisdom in our industry, but we know that it gives us strategic control and resilience. Our facility footprint reduces costs, it increases flexibility, and it allows us to accelerate our delivery timelines. So meeting the world's highest regulatory standards Our network supports 17 different approved medicines across over 70 markets, and we produce everything from oral solids to ADCs. Great examples of that control and resilience.
You're general manager of North America for B1. What does the company's presence look like in North America, and how does that fit into the broader company footprint?
Danny, I think that we're an increasingly important part of the global footprint of the organization. We're deeply committed to the US. I'm honored to lead over 1,700 colleagues across North America. The US organization is our largest and fastest growing market. This regional strength is a critical component of our global team that has more than 11,000 colleagues across 6 different continents. And right here in the US, we conduct 74 clinical trials across 49 states with over 2,000 patients currently enrolled. So, certainly within the clinical development footprint, this is really, really important. From a commercial and medical affairs standpoint, we similarly represent a significant portion of the global effort. This US journey actually began in Valley Forge, with our first office in the Philadelphia area, and we now have established some really important hubs in San Carlos, California, just south of San Francisco. The New Jersey location in Hopewell, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, and then also Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that Hopewell R&D facility is a really important part of our North American strategy. The state-of-the-art facility shows our long-term commitment to producing innovative biologics at scale and doing so in a way that's close to the patients and providers who need them, right here in the US.
B1 is a commercial company. Brukinsa, B1's BTK inhibitor for a number of B cell malignancies, is now available in more than 70 markets. Can you talk a little about how you approach markets and pricing in the context of our previous discussion, and how that approach might differ from the way traditional multinational pharmaceutical companies typically operate?
Sure, yeah, we absolutely took a differentiated approach to this molecule. We were actually third to market, but we continue to believe are best in class because of the design of the molecule, but also the courage that went into its clinical development plan. Brukinsa is indeed, we believe, a best in class BTK inhibitor and the cornerstone of our heme franchise, in large part because it has 5 FDA-approved indications, which is the broadest label of any BTK inhibitor on the market, and has a unique combination of a favorable safety profile, but also superior efficacy, demonstrated against a bendamustine rituximab combination, also superiority demonstrated against ibrutinib. We think this makes Brukinsa the differentiated treatment of choice for chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And as you said, we've taken a fundamentally different approach, built for global access from the start. And while traditional companies often prioritize, just the largest markets, we've aimed for broader access early. Brukinsa is approved in over 70 markets, with access secured across North America, Europe, Asia, and several emerging economies. And in this differentiated approach, affordability hasn't been an afterthought. It's also been a part of the design or the business model. We think patients deserve access, and we've been collaborative and flexible in our approach to pricing to make sure that that happens. So as a result, we're seeing the impact both in access and commercial performance. In just 2 years since chronic lymphocytic leukemia was approved, Brukinsa is now the number one BTK for new patient starts in the US. That's across both the frontline and the relapse refractory settings. And in the fourth quarter of last year, our US revenue surpassed Calquence, and we're closing in on Imbruvica. This is proof that expanding access can also drive growth. Uh, we're also, as I mentioned before, the only BTK in the US that's approved in 5 indications. We're an all-comer product fitting the needs of those 5 different disease states, which of course includes CLL. And we see that over half of newly diagnosed patients have one or more high-risk features. These are molecular risk features that include unmutated IGHV, about 40% of patients. In the treatment naive setting, about 10% of those treatment naive patients are TP53 and about 10% deletion 17p. And our PFS results are better across all comer populations than other treatment choices that are available today. It's the only BTK shown to demonstrate superiority against another BTK in this population due to our head-to-head superiority study with Imbruvica. And we think that this is the best solution for high-risk patients based on the actual data generated from those phase 3 clinical trials, but ultimately for all patients. Um, and we think that this success with Brukinsa establishes a really high bar for other molecules and the future of the organization. Ultimately, Brukinsa is really just the beginning. We know that we're building a long-term, multi-product CLL leadership franchise that'll provide best-in-class options for patients, um, potentially as we see our clinical trials read out. Our next-gen BCL2 inhibitor, sonrotoclax, is being combined with Brukinsa in a phase 3 fixed duration study known as Celestial, which is being studied in treatment-naive CLL patients and has the potential to disrupt the current time-limited therapy approaches that are available in that frontline setting. And our BTK protein degrader, BGB 16673, from our proprietary CDAC platform, it's sort of known as the CDAC degrader, will be a first and best-in-class medicine with potential to overcome treatment emergent resistance mutations due to this degrader mechanism and offer other mechanistic advantages over non-covalent BTK inhibition in CLL. So, we think that Brukinsa says a lot about the company's ability to, research and discover a superior design for a BTK molecule, the speed of our clinical trial activities, our courage in doing a superiority study with another BTK, and then very rapid uptake as a result of great medical work, great commercial work, and that platform, those capabilities are now in place for those next gen molecules as well. So it gives us a ton of excitement about the future.
You've also got Tevimbra, the company's PD-1 inhibitor, which has been approved. This is approved for 2 solid tumor indications. Where does it fit into the market?
Yeah, Tevimbra is another great example of our business model. It's our foundational asset in solid tumors. It's the first drug developed from our in-house immuno-oncology program, and it's uniquely engineered for PD-1 inhibition. It's designed to minimize Fc gamma receptor binding and aims to reduce off-target effects and enhance anti-tumor activity due to its high overall specificity. Tevimbra is actually approved in 45 markets. This includes the US, EU, Japan, and China. This is across multiple tumors such as esophageal squamous cell carcinoma, non small cell lung cancer, and gastric cancers. Here in the US, Tevimbra has received 3 FDA approvals in 1 year, and we're now approved for frontline and second line treatment of unresectable or metastatic esophageal cancers, and in frontline gastric or gastroesophageal junction cancers in PDL1 positive adult patients. We're particularly excited that in that frontline esophageal setting, uh, the overall survival that's been demonstrated with Tevimbra is actually substantially higher than Pembro and Nivo. when you look across different trials. Obviously, they weren't in the same trial setting, but globally, more than 1.3 million patients have been treated with Tevimbra. So there's been substantial clinical experience, and we continue to build our safety and pharmacovigilance package. So this gives us one of the most globally expansive development programs in immuno-oncology, 70 trials across 35 countries with 14,000 patients enrolled. We think that Tevimbra is positioned to play a leading role in addressing some of the world's most challenging solid tumors, and we're really confident, not just in the data that we're generating, but also in the clinical experience that physicians and patients are having.
One of the collaborations you have is with McKesson's Ontada to generate real world evidence around the value of therapies. How is this helping to address issues of access and affordability in the United States?
Yeah, great question, Danny. And this is an example of how we take a differentiated approach for each market, including where there's a lot of complexity and sophistication right here in the U.S. This collaboration helps generate real world evidence on how our therapies perform in the community oncology setting. After all, this is where most U.S. cancer patients are going to receive their care. And insights from this data generation help inform provider, payer, and policy decisions that impact patient access. This is one way to ensure that treatments are proven effective in real world use, ultimately get supported and are reimbursed appropriately. By demonstrating value beyond the clinical trial setting, we can then remove some barriers to coverage and drive more equitable access. Our work with Ontada supports a clearer understanding of how our medicines perform across diverse patient populations in the real world setting, which is critical to unlocking reimbursement and expanding affordability, particularly in those patients that are in under resourced communities, which is exactly where we're targeting this.
The company has several collaborations with large multinational pharmaceutical companies. It's also got a large pipeline of therapies in development. Do you think success looks any different for B1 than any other drug company?
Well, this idea of collaborations, we think is right at the core of our name BeOne. That you can't do this alone, and you've got to work across a whole range of different stakeholders. And we define our success by the quality of our medicines and how many patients we can help and the impact that we can bring to them. So we're proud of a model that prioritizes speed, access, and equity from day one to get our medicines to people as quickly as possible. And we're proud to advance one of the largest and most compelling pipelines in the industry. In 2024, our research team brought an industry leading 13 potential new medicines into the clinic, outpacing all peers, including the largest pharmaceutical companies. Particularly when we talk about oncology, where we're targeting some of the deadliest cancers across lung, heme, breast, and gastrointestinal. And this included initiation of over 150 clinical trials across over 45 countries and enrolled more than 24,000 patients. So, in order to do this, operate at this kind of scale, and this level of impact, we think that partnerships are central to how we operate and deliver value. That's across the science, the development, the commercialization. And so we have over 20 partnerships that span solid tumor, heme, immuno-oncology, and other next-gen modalities. We take a holistic approach. We leverage our internal capabilities with support from an alliance management team, and then we tailor partnerships to the need of each program. Our Amgen collaboration is a great example. For over 5 years, we've built a strategic partnership in China that supported the commercialization of Kyprolis, Blincyto, and Xgeva, and is creating value for both companies while most importantly creating value for patients. So absolutely, we see a role for partnerships, not just now, but also into the future.
As other companies recognize the success BeOne's having, do you think there's a potential to change the way the industry thinks about issues like access and affordability?
No question. We're built with access in mind from the start. As I mentioned, about 3,700 colleagues running trials in-house across over 45 countries to drive a cost-efficient, fast model that brings innovative medicines to more patients in more places in less time. And we've proven that scale and impact can go hand in hand. 5 years ago, we were a fraction of our size. Now we've reached over 1.5 million patients in over 70 markets, supported by 11,000 B1 colleagues and a global manufacturing network that is also designed for speed, flexibility and resilience. So we hope that our model shifts expectations. We're raising the bar for what we can do. We're raising the bar for what can be done in oncology. And we hope that we're raising the bar for what others within the industry also seek to do. So, as much as we've changed in the last 5 years, we want to continue to drive this innovative model and deliver even more and continue to evolve, well into the future.
Matt Shaulis, General Manager of North America for BeOne Medicines. Matt, thanks as always.
Hey, it's been my pleasure, Danny. Always excited to get together with you, and really pleased, for those in your audience that choose to give this a listen. And we'd love to just keep the dialogue going with you. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.